Hey, you guys hear about that hitchhiker the other day? He got a ride and he decided to be a little, sarcastic, and he said, "What makes you think I'm not a serial killer?" And the driver said, "There'd never be two of us in the same car."
What are the odds?
And Duane was driving.
Yeah. What are the odds?
So for those who are watching on YouTube, this is our first YouTube video. For those who are listening to the podcast, check out the links on our show notes, and we should have a link to the YouTube video in there. I don't know. We haven't made it yet. So we're just testing the waters here to see if people actually want to see our faces that are otherwise made for radio.
Yeah, and to those who are listening, congratulations on making the right choice.
Yeah.
So there's probably going to be some jump cuts in here. We apologize for that, but we have to edit for audio first. So,
yeah.
All right, guys, let's look at these stories. The first one is WinRAR. You know what RAR is if you've been around for a while. WinRAR is a Windows version of RAR, which is like zip. It's a compression thing. So WinRAR 0-day exploited to plant malware on archive extraction.
I mean, we haven't been trusting archival zips or RARs or anything like that for a long time.
Yeah.
So this adds to that legacy.
I'm more likely to trust Windows built-in zip compression than I am in 7-zip or any of those external products. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I use 7-zip only because it supports formats sometimes that Windows native zip doesn't. Yeah. So if you've ungun zip a tarball,
what?
Right?
What?
Yeah.
Ungun zip a tarball?
Yeah, you're probably not finding that in the normal native.
Isn't that
Windows.
a game?
It is. Yeah, the ungun zip tarball. That's my fighting name. Ungun zip tarball.
Something we play in the woods with Patrick with the tarball guns.
Right.
All right.
So it can be useful to have other tools. I don't particularly use WinRAR, but it's been around forever. So a lot of this is a directory traversal vulnerability, right? So CVE 2025-8088, a directory traversal vulnerability affecting Windows WinRAR versions, blah, blah, blah. What a directory traversal exploit can be, there was another one that was very similar called slipzip, where when you zip a file up into an archive, it actually keeps track of the path that the file was zipped up from. And sometimes it's a relative path. It's like, oh, well, I took all of the Security This Week episodes and I threw them in a directory called STW and I zipped up the STW directory. So when I unzip it, it will create the STW directory. Well,
But you usually unzip it to an existing directory and then it will create STW underneath that.
Exactly. So now what if I go into the metadata in the zip and I say, oh, it's not, ./STW/ episode1.mp4. It's // Windows /system32/ whatever, right?
Path.
So that's directory traversal. I'm actually moving outside of the directory you told it to unzip in. And then deploying other things, whether it's executables or files or overwriting configs or whatever.
And it would be foiled if the user unzipping it doesn't have access to that directory, but that never happens.
Right.
Or if the unzipped software noticed that it was a traversal and said, no,
which
this is not.
Even less than what I just said.
Right, exactly. Nobody's looking for that.
So can you do this with zip files too?
You used to be able to, yeah. And a lot of this has been fixed in different archival tools. I know we've seen it with 7-zip. We've seen it with Windows Zip. We've seen actually pretty much every archiving tool has had some form of zip slip issue. Directory
I remember us talking about some of these things that were patched.
Yep.
But I guess WinRAR is just the latest to be vulnerable to that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's an attacker finds an innovative way to re-implement something that's already been patched. So it is what it is. But if you are running WinRAR, I believe, let's take a look at the versions. If you're running anything prior to 7, 7.12 or earlier. So 7.12 or earlier, you need to go patch. Because if somebody, I mean, here's the risk, right? It's not like, oh my God, I have 7.12 on my computer and now it's compromised. Somebody still has to send you an archive. Somebody has to send you a zip
And they
file.
definitely will.
Yeah, and
somebody will at some point.
But hold on, you still need to open it. It's not like a 0-click. Like somebody's going to send you an email with a zip that says it's your invoice for your Best Buy extended warranty or something stupid like that, and you're going to unzip it, and it's going to unzip to the wrong location. So
yeah, and they're going to send you a RAR. They're not going to send you a zip.
Yeah,
you're using zip like the word Kleenex.
Exactly right. Just in the generic, they're going to send you a compression archive format that's supported by WinRAR.
I would think that if you're downloading a RAR file from a website, that it's in that website's interest to understand that the RAR is secure.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's no protection because it's also in their interest to make sure there's no cross-site scripting. And because it affects the client, not the web hoster, it's a very low priority thing.
Okay.
Right. If you found out that your car might cause someone to slip and fall, it's not going to affect you. You might, if you're a really good person, you'll fix it. But if you're busy, you might never get around to it.
You know, usually I love your analogies today.
This one's a little stretched.
I'm not so sure.
This one's a little stretched.
This is a rough one.
All right, moving on from WinRAR. WinRAR. I can't even say it. WinRAR.
This is too many O's, and we're from New England.
I know. Where did all these O's come from?
Oz. We've been saving them
up.
We've been saving the O's up.
just for that sentence.
All right, so this one, AOL will end dial-up internet service in September. 34 years after its debut, AOL Shield browser and AOL dialer software will be shuttered the same day. What?
I know.
Why now?
On.
I thought that was gone long ago.
This is like an announcement that the mammoth has gone extinct.
So I guess, to be fair, there are places in the world that don't have internet service, Wi-Fi, and dial-up is their only option.
Are there?
Yeah.
What about satellite?
I don't know, man. Like,
all right, but poor places, sub-Saharan Africa, for example.
First off,
is there really an ISP down there?
Is there dial-up capability? It's harder to get wires than it is satellites.
Good question.
I don't even know what to do with this. This is
I don't either.
All of us on this podcast are old enough to remember. Well, hold on. Are old enough to remember pre-internet.
Yes.
Before we were all connected, which is horrifying. But we're also old enough to remember that when your primary connection to the outside world was, you took your computer.
Yeah.
And
we'll find that audio clip.
And you connected your computer to the phone line, whether it was you plugged it in the back of your computer for fancy people, or you took literally the phone and put it on these cups and got. I
remember
baud.
My friend, an old friend, who ran a BBS in Norwich, Connecticut.
I'm sorry,
bulletin board system.
I ran a bulletin board system.
And then he moved it to an ISP, changed to an ISP because he had all the modems. He had racks of US robotics modems.
Why not?
And he became the dial-up service for our local area.
Hey, do you guys remember
alternative?
Do you guys remember the holy war between US robotics and Hayes?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, that was back in the day. Like Hayes were the big boys in the market, and USR they were the new people on the block.
Yeah. I jumped in the game when it was 300 baud modems.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know.
It was amazing.
Right? So back to this story. It says, but there remain a few options to plug in your 56K or slower screeching modem into. So apparently there are other options, but this somehow, AOL waited all this time to get rid of it. But if anybody out there knows of somebody who is going to be, I don't know, upset about this, please let us know.
I doubt they're watching video on YouTube if they have a modem.
Yeah, they probably won't get this podcast for a while.
No, if you know of somebody who's going to be upset, like, if your grandmother or whatever, your elderly parents.
Give us a shout on the Discord.
Give us a shout on Discord. Let us know. I'm just really curious to know.
Yeah.
All right.
Whew. AOL.
Okay.
We used to
AOL.
SOL.
I know, right?
AOL is SOL.
But wait, that was the service. You've got mail, right?
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was AOL.
Yeah,
You're right.
That was AOL. I actually knew the lady. I was in a training class, I think with you, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lady taking the class that her husband is the one who voiced that wave clip
Wow.
long time ago. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, oh, that's neat. It's a good claim to fame.
And he bought 2 cups of coffee with the money he made from that.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is from Security Week, not Security This Week. Flaws expose 100 Dell laptop models to implants, Windows login bypass.
So this does require physical access, which is a theme this week.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme.
And so it's a big deal, but it's not a crushing deal. It's not like suddenly you're vulnerable at an internet cafe. But if you're going through a security checkpoint in a dicey country, if somebody does steal a laptop and you find it adds some risk.
I didn't know Dell had 100 models of laptop. That seems crazy to me.
I mean, if you look at the ones that are under support, that's probably true. Like, there's probably some that they just don't like. Older Dell model laptops that still have support, but they aren't sold on their website.
And
they've
they've acquired companies over the
and you do
years.
and that's true. You have the Alienware series too, which is also Dell, just sold under Alienware. So maybe,
yeah.
But
what they say is 100 Dell laptop models. Does that mean there's any laptop models that aren't affected by this? I would say no.
Probably not.
Maybe super discontinued ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
So according to Talos, an attacker that does not have administrative privileges could interact with Control Vault via the associated APIs and execute arbitrary code on the firmware, leaking sensitive information affecting the security of the device, which could allow them to modify the firmware. So there's several CVEs associated with this one. This is 2025-24-311, 25-21-5, 24-922, 20-50-50, and 24-919. So there's several issues with this. It's not just, there's one thing we forgot to look at. We see in here, there's an out of bounds read and write. There's a stack buffer overflow. Yeah. So there's all sorts of different issues with different parts of this API.
Yeah. And when they're talking about models, they're talking about like a Latitude. I don't even know if these are real numbers, but like a 5520 and a 5530, those are 2 different models.
Right.
Oh, I see. So they're different.
And, Yep.
They're different configurations of the same model, probably.
Yeah,
the
same family
RAM.
is what I think.
Yeah, same family, different model. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense now.
So this, again, the risk here is if you lose physical control of the laptop, which you shouldn't, but if you did, then somebody, and it's a pretty high tech. It's not the average thing. A script kiddie's not going to be able to do this. The average, person who's just dealing with networking and stuff like that isn't going to be doing this. This is custom API controls.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's custom firmware as well. Which there are people who know how to do this type of thing. But you're absolutely right. The barrier to entry is higher. But if you continuing looking at some of these CVEs, it says another interesting consequence of this scenario is that the system affected. Let's say it was able to be unlocked by a user's fingerprint. It's actually possible to tamper with the firmware so that it will accept any fingerprint and say it's a legitimate user. So, this then means you could boot up a laptop without BitLocker or with BitLocker. Who knows? We'll talk about that later. And then be able to log in just using your fingerprint.
I think the biggest risk here is you're traveling with a laptop. It leaves your custody and goes into a special room, or room, as we say in New England.
Room.
And they execute this because of who you are, what your job is, that kind of thing.
But I wonder too is you see a lot of the I can't my fingerprint scanner's not working on my laptop. What should I do? Right? You search Google, and the first site that comes up is some random Joe's awesomepatches.com, and he's like, just apply this patch and it'll fix your fingerprint reader.
I never do that.
Right.
You always go to the source.
But so it's possible that might be a vector as well, where it's like, we just, we'll give you this firmware that's going to update, and it's going to allow any fingerprint. And it'll look like it works for you, but it'll work for everybody else too.
Speaking of updates, if you got that level of control, you can just steal everything.
Well, that's true too, right? Put a backdoor on the computer. Why wait?
Right.
Well, speaking of updates, Dell has issued patches for these laptops. All of
they're
them?
Not Windows patches. They're firmware patches, right? So you got to go into the firmware and update the firmware, which most people never do.
No. Nope. The only time you do it is usually when that device stops working and you go, gosh, maybe I'll go find the firmware. But that's pretty much it.
You do that by logging onto Dell. And, if you've already got an account, great. If you don't, you can look it up by the model. And there will be listed there for downloads firmware patches. Yep. So go do that if you have a Dell laptop. Dude.
Patch.
You got hacked.
Yeah, but I just want to make clear, and I'm being a stickler here.
That was baked all the time.
Yeah.
I'm being a stickler here, is this isn't Windows Update.
Correct.
Right. You're right.
You have to go into the BIOS and patch the firmware. And that is not a process that is like, I'm just going to do Windows Update. You've got to actually go through the process that you've probably never done before.
Probably never done.
Not.
Yeah. And also make sure you're at Dell.com. Like, don't go to Bob's, discount sharkcages.com. Yeah. All right. So, Fortinet. Oh my God. We can't get rid of these guys. Fortinet warns of FortiSIEM pre-auth RCE flaw with exploit in the wild.
So
seems like this was in the news last week.
So first thing is, this is a SIM, and we don't pronounce the E. Security Information and Events Management.
Even though we want to pronounce the E.
Yeah.
Well, I pronounce it SIEM because I've never.
That's how we tell the outsiders.
Yeah. When they say, "How's your SIEM?" and you're like, "No, sorry." SIM. So FortiSIM. And basically, this is where you'd gather up information and logs and things like that to see, to catch the hackers, threat hunting kind of thing.
Okay.
Here's what I want to say, though. Fortinet, what happened?
Yeah, what happened,
honestly,
you guys,
you were really good.
You were really good. It's funny. There's actually a couple listeners of the podcast from Germany I was talking to this week, and we were lamenting. We were like, you know what, Fortinet used to be good, right?
Fortinet, meet me over at camera 3.
Right, exactly. So it's it's
are you
sad.
doing okay?
Exactly. Do we need an intervention at this point?
We do.
Do I need to bring my buddies Ubiquity?
Do we need an acquisition?
We'll talk. It's amazing how far they've fallen. They were the cutting edge of firewalls and protection and whatnot.
I think they grew too fast.
Possibly. In this particular case, if we dig into this, so this is like Patrick and Carl had said, this is the FortiSIEM, right? So this is gathering logs and understanding what's going on in your network. So generally something you want up and running to know if somebody's attacking your network. But the exploit here is an improper neutralization of special elements used in an OS command injection vulnerability. May allow attackers, blah, 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 whatever. So what does that mean? What's an OS command injection vulnerability? Most of these tools have the ability to say, let's say I want to write my logs out to Splunk, right? And
this one does.
You go to the Splunk configuration screen and you say, what's the name of the host, the IP address where Splunk is, and you type it in. And I don't know if it can talk to that server. So I click test. And it goes out and it pings it. And it comes back and says, yes, that host is alive. I can see it. Okay. Now type in the username and password or whatever. A host injection or an OS command injection is where I might type in, I'm going to type in the name of the Splunk server. And then I'm going to use the and symbol. Who am I? Right. And what happens is when you click test, not only does it run an OS command, ping name, but because that and symbol is in there, it goes, by the way, I want to run another command, which is who am I? Right. So not sanitizing that input, means that I can stack my commands and get it to
SQL injection.
Exactly. And in some cases, sometimes easier than SQL injection, because it's literally, I just need to put another command there and then put another command in there and then tell it to reach back out to me with a shell so that I can do things. So
the words that make it the most unsettling are remote unauthenticated.
Yes. Yep.
I think that means it's a much bigger deal if this thing is connected to the internet, which I assume in many cases it is.
Yep.
And here's a warning, kids. If you put in that Splunk URL and you get back a picture of a cave, you probably misspelled Splunk.
Wrong spelunking.
That would be spelunk. There's an extra E in there. Yeah. Just that'll give you. You're not going to get a 404. You're just going to get a picture of a cave. All right. So patches.
Well, it's got a 9.8 rating, and I think the words remote unauthenticated merits that it's up in that range. Because a lot of times, for those who are new to the show, we take a little bit of a reality check on those numbers from the CVE to see whether we think it's really measures. I think it's definitely above a 9 because of that.
Yes, but is there a patch?
Let me check. I think it. Yes, there's a patch update to the latest version 6.710 701 718 726 732.
All right.
We'll put the link in the notes, but yeah, there is a patch for it. If you're running 7.3 or 6.6 earlier, you're in trouble.
The shame about these things is these are people who are using this product who are trying to do the right thing by trying to use a SIM to find the bad stuff, and the thing that they were using to find the bad stuff opened them up to worse stuff.
Right. Well, this is about the time when we need to take a break, so we'll be right back after these very important messages. Don't you go away. And we're back. It's Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Patrick Hynds and Duane Laflotte here for your terrifying and
reality check
jocularity. Okay. Next story. 17,000 plus VMware. How do you say this? SXI?
ESXi.
It's sexy. That's how it.
He's sexy.
I
think we should start calling it that. That should do. I'm running VMware. He's sexy.
He's sexy.
Hey, you heard it here first.
That's going to make some very awkward conversations with customers. Are you running sexy? You're going to be like, what did you just say?
17,000 plus VMware ESXi servers vulnerable to critical integer overflow vulnerability. Yikes.
Yeah.
What happened?
So this is an interesting one. Now, this vulnerability can allow all sorts of takeover and control, and it is rated pretty high. If I remember correctly, this is a 9.3. Yeah, this is a 9.3. Security researchers warn. It's been around for a little while. The biggest problem right now is the Shadow Server Foundation has found that 17,238 of these ESXi boxes are sitting on the internet and accessible. Right? So that's a fair surface of attack. To be able to hit. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure why you'd put an ESXi box on the internet, but it is what it is.
I mean, I can understand hosting a VM on the internet, but that's kind of reckless, I think.
Right. And at this point, it says it permits unauthenticated remote attackers to execute arbitrary code, escalate privileges, or deliver ransomware to the virtual environment.
So VMware ESXi obviously is like what, on something that sits on top of VMware, or is it a brand of VMware?
It's a hypervisor that lets you run VMs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would install this usually bare metal. Instead of installing Windows or Linux on your computer, you would install ESXi as an operating system.
I see.
And then it allows you as a hypervisor to use all of the hardware on that bare metal to spin up virtual machines. So I could spin up a Windows server. I could spin up 3 Windows servers. I could spin up a Linux server, all on the same hardware.
So get this. This critical vulnerability, first flagged in July, has prompted urgent calls for patching, but the latest scan results suggest progress remains slow, with thousands of systems still unpatched.
Because this is like the firmware on a laptop or a computer system. This is under the covers of what most people deal with.
Yep.
And it's closer to hardware than it is to software in most people's minds.
Yeah. So July 19th, there was 17,238 vulnerable hosts on the internet. It's as of August 10th, there's 16,300. So less than 100 have been or less than 1,000 have been patched.
So is this something where you have to create a USB stick or a portable hard drive and boot from that to update?
Generally, this is something where you need to go into, you can go in and click update, but usually you have to have keyboard and monitor to the ESXi box.
Yeah.
You can do it through an administrative interface as well. So there's a couple ways to do the update. It's not super painful, but it's, to Patrick's point, it's not as easy as Windows Update. It's not like just go click on somewhere and click update.
We have no inside information on this, but it's possible that this is very localized to like one large web cloud provider who decided their default configuration was on the web and they've only gotten 10% or 8% of their servers done.
Yeah.
It could certainly be that. I want to look at the Showdown or the Shadow Foundation results to know, but I don't think we can get that detail.
But you said this is just for the box, not for each individual VM. The VMs themselves don't need to be patched, or do they?
No, they don't.
Good.
No, but they might have to be offline.
Yeah, sure.
So if they're mission critical, you might need to migrate them. And there's software solutions like Veeam that will allow you to move a VM while it's running to another system. So that's not a great excuse unless you don't have those solutions in place.
Well, yeah, you should have a backup anyway.
Yeah. Well, imagine you're a hosting provider with this scenario and you've got a server with like 20 VMs from different clients, 20 different clients. You're going to have to notify all those clients and give them enough time to understand the outage window. And if it's high enough priority, you're going to have to get them to agree to the outage window.
Yeah.
And that could be difficult.
Like you said, you could use Veeam. If you have another server standing by as a backup, use Veeam after you have installed the latest version of ESXi.
Exactly.
And then use Veeam and then switch it over.
Yeah, but that would kind of speak to why it's a slower process. Or it just may be that this message isn't getting out and people aren't checking.
Yeah.
Could be that. They're not listening to security this week.
Uncool.
I didn't think that was possible.
Right?
Okay, as we get closer and closer to our top story, new Windows zero-click NT Landman credential leakage vulnerability bypasses Microsoft's patch. That can't be good.
Well, so this is part of the arms race that we're seeing. So there's a term called a 1 day. So a 0 day, most people understand, is a vulnerability that's not known to the general public that a hacking group or the NSA could use to infiltrate organizations and do what they want until it becomes public knowledge. Then it's no longer a 0 day. Once it gets patched, what's happening now is the hackers and organizations like us are going and reverse engineering the patch to figure out what the vulnerability was so that they can then exploit it before people get a chance to patch. So this is, it's not the same thing, but it's part and parcel, I think, because Microsoft put out a patch and someone looked at the patch, reverse engineered it and said, oh, they missed a trick. I can get around this patch. Right. So even a patch system I can get around.
Yeah. And so backing up a little bit though, people might be like, well, why does it matter? Right? What's going on here? Like we threw out a lot of acronyms in new Windows zero-click NTLM credential leaking vulnerability bypass Microsoft's patch. Like there's a lot going on there we can unpack. So credential stealing, right? When we break into a network, the first thing we're looking to do, especially if we don't have a user account, there's plenty of times we're working with customers where we'll send them an implant, like just a device that they'll plug into the network. We don't have any user accounts. So our first goal is go find user accounts, right?
I thought it was to find the ATM network and spit out a bunch of 50s.
You got to do that first. But then the second goal is Step three, make money. So we need a user account to do anything. Well, easy way for us to get user accounts is to compromise lower end devices, whether that's like a printer that may have a user account on it, and then we can grab credentials there. But another way for us to do that is for us to take a link file, an LNK file in Windows, and put it somewhere that's publicly accessible by everyone. So we found shares that everybody can write to, right? So what do I do to an everyone share? I can't put an executable, an exe, because nobody's going to run it, right? But I can put an LNK file. And if I put an LNK file, what a link file does is it's a shortcut to another file. Right. So we've all done this before, right? You have your My Documents. You might have an Excel document in there and you want a link to it on your desktop, so you can always double click on it. So you would drag it to your desktop and it would say, do you want to make a copy here or do you just want a shortcut, a link, right? And we'd say, oh, shortcut. And now it's a link file. If you dissect that file, inside it's going to be the path to the original file.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if I change that path instead of saying, C:\\, users / /dlaflotte / documents / my Excel document? What if I change it to / some computer name / some share / some fake file? When you double click on that link file, it will try to go out to the network and authenticate against that share with your user account, which you're logged into your computer with automatically. Okay.
Right.
So that's not a big deal. You go, who cares?
No.
Right? Because
But therein lies the
somebody had to double
potential
click
for
on
exploit.
it, right? They had to do something. So how do you make this 0 click? Well, Windows Explorer has a really interesting feature. When you open up Windows Explorer, which is the My Computer and you're surfing your hard drive, you'll notice all the files have icons on them, right? Oh, this is a Word document. You can identify it by the fact that it's a Word document.
Yeah.
What Windows Explorer does is it interrogates the file to see what the icon should be. When it does that, it has to reach out to the original file to do it.
Of course.
It's okay. You put a link file out there and you reference a remote, Word doc. That's not really a Word doc. And when a user opens that share up, Windows Explorer automatically reaches out to us and gives us credentials for the user. And they're not credentials, they're hashes. We could go into a lot of how you replay them and all the other good stuff. But moral of the story is some form of credential comes back out to us. And that's really cool, but Microsoft has tried to stop it. In this particular case, what they're doing is they're taking that link file, they're referencing an executable that's on a remote location. And in that executable is the icon for the executable. So they're like, oh, well, what I need to do, this is what Microsoft is saying, is I need to take that executable from the remote location. I need to pull it down to the local computer. I need to open it up and find the icon so I can display it. Well, now what I've done is that executable is now local to the Windows computer. It's already there. So it's a 0-click deploy of executable files.
It's in some cache file somewhere.
You got the user to do your dirty work.
Yeah, and they didn't even notice it. All they were doing was surfing the hard drive or opening up the public share or looking at their home drive, right? They didn't click on anything. They didn't do anything other than just open up that Explorer. So it's important. But we're because this system of how, NTLM works and Windows sharing and that sort of stuff has been around for 35, 40 years, we're going to see a lot of these sort of bypasses. It's an interesting one, actually. We'll, I'm sure, use it on all of our attacks. We love the link file. Honestly, we do use link files all the time on our attacks because it's just super easy for us to grab credentials that way.
And for those who haven't heard it, convenience is the enemy of security.
Right.
Yeah.
And link files are hella convenient.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we know this is a vulnerability. Is there a patch?
Not particularly, no.
Works as designed, I think, is what we're going to hear.
Right now, it's works as designed. I could see Microsoft going out and being more stringent in how they reach out and look for icons in files. And saying, well, if it's a remote executable, maybe we won't do this anymore, or maybe we'll pull down the executable, pull out the icon and then delete the executable or whatever. But currently there's hey, this is kind of how it was designed.
But
there was a patch.
There was a patch that attempted to fix a lot of this stuff. So I could see Microsoft adding more logic to that patch. But
it's a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Well,
it's the arms race that you always talk about.
They're liable to break as much as they fix.
Yeah.
Well, the document says Microsoft, the website, Microsoft is expected to release a comprehensive security update to address the bypass technique completely.
Right.
So is that still true?
Yeah, absolutely. But there again, it's an arms race. The last time they released a patch, it was a comprehensive update to stop the bypass entirely.
And pass the hash it's not the same attack, but it's in the same family, I would say. And they said that was, as designed.
Right. And I think it's like, almost 10 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago now, Microsoft's like, pass the hash is dead. And we saw tons of pen testing articles out there saying, pass the hash is dead. Long live pass the hash. Because you could still do it, right? Even though Microsoft had patched and tried to catch it, it's this arms race of,
yeah, but they told people not to. So, I mean, that's all you have to do.
That's all you really have to do.
Yeah, just let them know.
I mean,
like, this isn't cool.
Scout's
like,
honor.
My bad. So I think this will be the same thing, Carl. This will be an arms race. We're going to see attackers find a way around this comprehensive patch, and it's just going to keep going.
All right, so we ready for the
news for Microsoft?
Yeah, so we're ready for the big one here. BitUnlocker In cybersecurity news, BitUnlocker, multiple 0 days to bypass BitLocker and extract all protected data. So we've talked about BitLocker in the past. It's a feature of Windows. And when you turn it on for a particular folder or hard drive, it encrypts everything in that folder or hard drive.
Rest.
Yeah, encryption at rest, so that if you make a copy of it and copy it somewhere, you cannot access it unless you've got the key, which is online, and you can find those keys. And we talked about this because I had this issue where I had some music that I had recorded on one PC, and apparently BitLocker was on. I didn't realize it. And I went to copy that off and give it to the artist that I recorded it for, and they couldn't open it. And so I had to go get the key and turn it all off. And, you know.
But encryption at rest is very important because it means that if somebody steals the laptop or the computer or just gets the hard drive because you threw it away without
wiping it,
effectively wiping it, which is a big no-no, they can read the data. And we have people, I won't mention names, who will just go to a pawn shop and buy old hard drives for fun and see what's on them.
Yeah.
You know, and they're mostly people in our industry, and they're, you know, for a laugh, and they'll take a look at what's on there, more so that they can tell war stories when they speak at conferences, not so that they can steal data.
Right.
But there could be somebody, you know, you could buy a hard drive, probably an old terabyte hard drive nowadays, or a 350 gigabyte hard drive, you probably get for $3 to $5. And it could be, hell, your old Bitcoin could be on there.
Yeah.
That you were looking for.
Staples, in case you don't know, the big chain, will recycle all sorts of electronic equipment. And in my town, there's just an empty cart right inside the door, and you just put stuff in there. Mm-hmm. I had over 100 hard drives that I had amassed over the years. And after cleaning them all off and getting rid of everything that I needed, I drilled holes through them, 2 holes, all the way through.
Usually.
And took those. What do you mean usually?
All right. So can you still recover from those drives? You can, but it does require some very specialized tools,
which we have.
So you can do it.
What?
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, there's still.
What if I bang it with a hammer so it's completely misshapen?
So you'll break something randomly,
matter?
But you won't. So we have a partnership with a hardware destruction company that has a shredder.
You guys are killing me.
Shred drives and give us a certificate of destruction.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if we get a big enough magnet like Richard Campbell's
Goliath.
Goliath.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you get, I think it's 1/16 of an inch of disc platter, you can read something off it. Now it might be just random bits, but it could be a social security number, which I can also get off the internet. So it's just understand that it's not the way, like wiper programs don't just erase the data. They erase the data and write new data and erase that data and write it again dozens of times to make sure there's no residuals so that they can't unread it.
All right, back to the story. Researchers have disclosed a series of critical zero-day vulnerabilities that completely bypass Windows BitLocker encryption, allowing attackers with physical access to extract all protected data. There's 4 critical attack vectors discovered. So you want to talk about these?
Yeah, absolutely. So they all distill down to, so like you had talked about, the BitLocker drive is encrypted. Right, all the data is encrypted at rest. So for those of you who have a BitLocker, like you may be like, oh, I don't know if I have a BitLocker drive. Shut your computer off, and when you turn it back on, if it asks you for a really long password, then you probably have BitLocker on. So there are ways. Let's say we're recovering our PC. Right, I go into Windows, and the last patch caused all sorts of issues and that sort of stuff. And I say I want to recover to a different recovery point or something along those lines. You're using WinRE, which is the Windows recovery environment. When you do that, that process has to be able to register applications to be able to be used prior to your drive booting, so that it can restore the operating system and do all sorts of stuff. What this is doing is exploiting that recovery volume, right? That boot SDI file that allows you to do these types of recoveries, and registering new applications and that sort of stuff. So it's a way of bypassing the BitLocker key. Now, it's not like, huzzah, it just shuts it off. You do get read access, so you can pull certain files off the drive if you want to. This has been patched, however. So this has been patched. If you, I believe it was in the July 2025 patch.
But firmware or Windows Update?
No, this is just Windows Update.
Okay.
This is fixing the way that the setup platform.exe works.
Okay.
So
now, just as a clarification, when you boot Windows that has BitLocker, you're not prompted if you're booting from the installation
Correct.
of Windows that has BitLocker. If you try to install another operating system that accesses that disk, that's when you'd get prompted for the BitLocker.
Exactly.
Because it's encrypted at rest.
Right.
So it's transparent to most people.
Right. And that's what an attacker is going to do. Like I'm not going to know your username and password. So if I stole your laptop, I would want to boot to a USB and access the drive. And at that point,
and
I'm
that
going to
would
need the
require
keys and that sort of stuff.
Right.
Yes.
And also, if you take that drive out, or you throw that drive in Staples shopping cart, and I grab it out, because they guard that really well, right?
Yeah.
Carl? They
There's
guard
a guard
that.
sitting there looking.
Armed guard.
Oh, yeah.
So if I grab that drive out and I bring it home, if it was on a partition with BitLocker, it will be encrypted, and it will be a much higher standard for me, because it's a heavy encryption BitLocker.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the key's huge, and consequently, if you've ever tried, like, run into an operating system issue, had to reinstall, and it asks you for that BitLocker key, and you go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't write it down."
Yeah.
It's associated with your Windows account, so you can actually now log into Microsoft Windows site with your username and password, find all the BitLocker keys associated with your computer so you can type it in. So there's a way to get back your keys.
Right.
Used to not be that way. It used to be if you didn't write it down,
oh well,
yeah, you were in trouble. Yeah.
Well, do most people just encrypt their data drives? Because I imagine
most people have one drive, and they encrypt it, or they don't.
Yep. Yeah, even most laptops you're going to buy from Dell would have one drive in it, right? It doesn't have multiple drives typically, unless you order it with multiple drives and add
gamers and musicians.
Which, pretty much it.
All of us are one of those. Guess who's who?
Yeah. So you mentioned, I asked you before the show, who uses BitLocker? So government, military.
A lot of people depend on it if their standards require encryption at rest, which the military definitely does, government definitely does. Some non-disclosure agreements, if they're extensive enough, will say you're only going to store our data on devices that have at rest encryption. Right. And encryption in transit. Those are the keys. So yeah, we're starting to become dependent on it and just assume it's there. And BitLocker's kind of the gold standard right now, because it's easy.
It's included. It's not hard to use. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So as I mentioned, there's 4, right? So there's boot SDI parsing vulnerability. There's the reagent XML exploitation. That's WinRE's offline scanning feature.
Yep.
There's trusted app manipulation. So that targets setup platform exe, a trusted app. And then there's BCD.
The push button reset functionality.
Configuration.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all of them pretty much are targeting the same thing. They're targeting the ability to do either restores or low level, point checks and that sort of stuff in your operating system. So although there's different ways to do it, whether it's, manipulating the boot SDI or, changing an XML file that's configuration and reagent as to which, offline program can run, either way, or manipulating, setup platform to run command.exe, like whatever it is, it's that recovery piece that you're exploiting, to then run the program of your choice past the BitLocker protection.
And again, the risk here is you go to a country that wants to read your laptop and knows about this hack, and you haven't done patching on that system.
Right.
Somebody, you throw away a drive and somebody wants to get into it after the fact, whether they know you or not. The fact that it's on Windows Update, there's a much easier path to getting it patched. So everybody should be patching this.
And don't wait for Patch Tuesday. Yeah. Do it now.
By the way, this was just publicly spoken at Black Hat last week. There was a session called BitLocker Unlock, BitUnlocker, leveraging Windows recovery to extract BitLocker secrets. And there was a team there that actually showed how to do it. So
they made prime time.
They did. They made prime.
They said, BitLocker keys. We don't need no stinking BitLocker keys.
Yes, they did. And they were right.
Wow, another awesome show has elapsed. Thank you very much. You've wasted at least 45 minutes watching us on YouTube and listening to us on the podcast. And for that, we thank you. We'll see you next week on Security This Week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.